Shrutihi. So, we are now on chapter 12, verse 9. Okay. So, it goes, sorry, we saw last time, no, that mat karma krut mat paramaha mat bhakta sangha varjitaha. Okay. So, here it says, अथ चित्तं समाधातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततः मामिच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय. You'll chant after me. अथ चित्तं समाधातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् मामिच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय. Okay, so here he says that in the previous verse it was talking about how the whole pursuit, he uses mat, which is a pronoun which says me, but actually it represents Ishvara. Okay, so Vedanta, you cannot have the traditional study of Vedanta without bringing the understanding of Ishvara. Okay, because the cause of the universe is not, it's I don't care. It's not about caring or not caring. It's about understanding what is. If you're interested in what is, you have no choice, right? So this is why here the whole pursuit was mat karma krut, means bringing in Ishvara as law of dharma when you choose actions. Understanding Ishvara as the giver of the result of the action when the results come, that is mat karma krut, right? So that means you're bringing in Ishvara in your choice of actions and receiving results. Otherwise what happens is people say, oh, just give your karma to me, but what does it mean? Who you have to kind of offer your karma to, he doesn't need your karma. For him it is you to align your buddhi in keeping with what is. Okay, so that means mat karma krut mat paramaha. Okay, Ishvara becomes the very goal of one's life, because in knowing the truth of Ishvara is also what? Knowing your truth. Okay, so therefore the very goal of life is not just alignment to the laws of Ishvara, it means the ultimate vision between you and Ishvara. Otherwise, as Gopi was saying, you always remain a very small entity, almost a little bit frightened of Ishvara, because Ishvara is all the laws and you constantly have to try to align yourself to the laws, and your knowledge of the laws is so little. So somebody she started listening to my classes of Mandukya Upanishad, which is quite an advanced Upanishad, and was using this Om to unfold the whole vision. And when she saw the fact that there are all these laws we make, it has a consequence, she almost got frightened, because as in fact I remembered Gopi, because Gopi said this is scary, right? Because you can't get away from laws of karma. So here the ultimate purpose is not just to align, it is to actually know your identity with Ishvara. It's an equation, right? So therefore mat paramaha is you actually cross that whole samsara, which is means to know one's identity with Ishvara. So one has to spend time in knowing the reality, the ultimate reality of oneself with Ishvara. Okay, mat paramaha. Then mat bhaktaha. That means you need to bring in the awareness of Ishvara in your life. Okay, because if you if there is a reality, the intelligence, which is not just, we think Ishvara is just law of karma and dharma. It is not. Okay, any pursuit that you make, biology is not outside Ishvara, it is that intelligence which is seeing from the standpoint of how the plant kingdom works, for example, okay, or the intelligence seen from how the body works. Okay. So that means that any pursuit you have in this world, physics, seeing that intelligence from the standpoint of how the physical world is organized. Psychological order is seeing that intelligence from the standpoint of how our minds work. Okay. So therefore, the bhajan, and you are kind of, you are not only one dimensional in your understanding of Ishvara. You understand Ishvara in its totality. Okay. So this is why sometimes what happens is that people who are highly devoted, you think that they have an edge when they come to Vedanta. Sometimes they don't, because they have such a fixed kind of opinion about what Ishvara is and how they relate to that Ishvara. When Vedanta shows them a much bigger picture, they are unable to take it. They are unable to take the fact that here it's an equation between you and Ishvara. So therefore, on one hand, it actually can become a block. So Mad Bhaktaha does not mean in a normal sense, oh, somebody who's devoted to me. Okay. It means that the person is alive to the totality of Ishvara. Okay. Any person that you want to relate to, you can relate well when you know the person well, and not from your own image of what that person is. Ishvara is exactly the same. If you want to relate to Ishvara, you need to understand what is the real nature of Ishvara and not what you think of that Ishvara. Okay, so that is what is meant by Mad Bhaktaha. Understand the totality of what is Ishvara. Okay, then every time people ask this question, then how will, all these are very big concepts, how will my life change? Okay, so here one word is thrown in, and that is Nirvairaha. If you understand the order or the laws of cause and effect in every area of your life all the way, okay, you will become somebody who does not hold any resentment, either with reference to yourself or with reference to anybody else. Okay, so that means, that does not mean that you're able to solve all the relationships and you're able to kind of have everything your way. That's not what we are saying. Within the cause and effect relationship, okay, people are what we call imperfect, because there are reasons within reasons within reasons within reasons. Within that, you do your part. It's not like, oh, because there are reasons within reasons within reasons, you don't intervene. That's not what we are saying, because you are also given a free will. Okay, so use that free will effectively, but after that, let it go. Okay, and you can let it go with one prayer. Because prayer is, as I said, is just the game of probability. You're increasing your chance of getting what you want. That's intelligent living. Okay, you can't say, oh, I'm indifferent to things. Nobody is indifferent to things. Oh yeah, whatever it is not. Okay, so therefore use your free will intelligently and don't forget to pray, because that prayer is an action and it will produce a result. Okay, and when you do that, and if you don't hold on to the resentment, that is a completely proactive life. So that means all the issues that are kind of unresolved issues that are lying there buried, you need to somehow bring in your understanding of Ishvara and the truth to release it. Because unless you do that, what happens is, there is the one part of the mind which is a conscious mind, which is operating from what all you learn. The other part of the mind is the unconscious mind. Okay, which is governed by all the things which are unaddressed, are operating from your conscious mind. But if a situation triggers something, your unconscious is triggered and that takes over. At that point in time, everything that you have learned is not available to you anymore. Okay, so therefore this is something, this also happens, by the way, after years of listening to Vedanta. Years of listening to Vedanta. So I have this
sort of like you filter everything through awareness.
Exactly. This is so important, because if you don't, then what happens is, so much of your life is governed by your, and I'll just give you a very striking example. of this, I mean, I really don't want to talk about any person. My whole point is, after years of study of Vedanta, how a person is totally governed by one's own ambition, for example. Okay, so there is this a person, she has done something in her childhood, I don't quite know, but there was this whole deprivation, so her whole thing is like nurturing herself. Okay, so now she uses Vedanta, she has become a teacher, she is using Vedanta for two purposes. Okay, one is, if there is a rich person, she wants money. Okay, because that will make her feel she has a nice ashram, she has a nice place or whatever. And if that person is not so well off, then she wants that person to serve. So that means people cook for her, people press her legs. The whole thing is her own nurturing. Okay, because she is so deprived. It's not like she is even consciously trying to exploit others. Her of the unconscious. It's not like she wants to be bad. Most of the time, she doesn't even. She feels exactly. She doesn't even realize.
It is everybody else's free will that they are acting bad.
Yeah, but when you enter into a relationship, it's like when you enter into a husband and wife, parent and child relationship, you have a teacher and student. Teacher certainly has some power. Subtle power, right? The very fact that the student is coming to you to learn, that means that that person has some respect, otherwise nobody will come. Okay, so you set and this is a so-called spiritual teaching where they say, oh, this is like the ultimate goal of life, and I'm to that person differently. They don't even, and especially if the teacher highlights that part, right, then the student will enter into that kind of a relationship. And unfortunately, without her knowing, she just ends up doing this. And she, according to her own vision, she feels then people get fed up. Initially, they are under her spell, then people leave, right? Nobody wants to be abused if you are a thinking person, even after a while, right? Even psychologically. You don't want to.
Using Vedanta
exactly,
consciously, not in the way it should be.
Exactly.
And then people, and then people, I think after a while, recognize this.
Exactly.
This is not what I thought.
Exactly. See, initially they are all into this some romantic thing of oh guru, and and then they nobody wants to. If you are a thinking person, there are some who get, but there are some. Then when they withdraw, she feels, oh poor me. You see, I mean, her whole image. Exactly.
She's feeding herself.
And her vision of herself, exactly. Her vision of herself is this. Her vision is not like, my God, I'm doing something wrong, let me kind of correct it. Her thing is, oh poor me, see how people kind of just leave me, I give them so much care. So
I allowed them to press my feet and others.
Exactly. I allow them to do this, and I allow them to, I take them under my care, and we have. So for her, it's a different world altogether.
But then she's not looking. I mean, the
So
whole idea
this is why I say exactly. So that means
see things as they are.
exactly. So that's why that unconscious you cannot you can't just say I'm going to listen to Vedanta, okay, and I'm going to get, and because I mean if she talks properly, it's not like she's talking, but when the unconscious is not addressed, what
100% correct.
see. Yeah, exactly. So that is what I said. What I want to show is what's happening, right? There is a right which has one's own stories, one's own patterns of behavior. Okay. Generally, what happens is when Vedanta tells you you're already free, what do people tend to do? Your sorrows, your buried sadness, your anger, your unresolved issues. That's painful to look into.
I think one of the biggest issues is that you're not offering any solution, and so many people have come to you to find a solution to their problems, and Vedanta is not really trying to find a solution, it's only trying to help you understand your problem, and nobody, because you're not giving a quick fix.
Actually, even if you go to a psychologist, they cannot change your mother-in-law, they cannot change, nobody
Exactly,
can, right? But people give you quick fix in the sense that they'll give you some practices to temporarily quieten your mind. So people think that this is a solution. but it is not, right? So that means quick fix is something that you can immediately, by the time you solve that problem, another will surface. Then when you solve that problem, another will surface. You can't eliminate problems in your life, okay? You can,
The approach.
exactly. That is really the solution. There is no other solution.
But here what you're trying to say is that you have to be wary of your unconscious mind misleading you from understanding
Exactly.
Vedanta the way you think. You have understood it, but you may not act in sync with it.
Exactly, Arna, exactly. And that can happen to many people. Okay? Because see, if you go to a psychology, for them the ultimate reality about you is the mind, right? So you take mind to be real. What Vedanta tells entity. Okay? Then there is an absolute entity which is totally free. So sometimes that gives you an escape, right? Because you then say, I'm free. And then what happens? Anything that happens at the level of mind, you tend to ignore by saying, oh, it's only mithya. Okay? So in fact, Vedanta is giving you a much more fundamental solution, but in order for you to either understand and live life, you can't. Okay? So therefore, it is something which is very, very important to take care of your unconscious, even though which is absolute, or at the absolute level, all that is here is one reality. That's all. Okay? All your decisions have to be made at the relative level. You can't afford to just use this knowledge in an inappropriate manner. Okay? Where this is not at all how it is meant to be used. That's why 30% of the Gita is talking about all the attitudes that you need to cultivate, okay, in order to know this reality, because it's important. You can't ignore that. Okay, so this is what I wanted to highlight, that it is important. Now, this is exactly what is highlighted in this verse by saying that all this, right up to now, what all we have seen as vision of Vedanta, it started by Arjuna's problem. Arjuna's problem of looking for fulfillment and understanding that no matter what I do, okay, it is not going to fulfill me. So he wants a solution which is a far more, right, Lord Krishna starts to teach him, and the first few verses of the Gita are talking about Atma. Okay, Atma nityaha shuddhaha shashvato yam puranaha na hanyate hanyamane sharire. That is the nature of Atma. This is what Lord Krishna shows him as the nature of I. Okay? Something which does not get destroyed with the body. Okay? It is something which is the truth of time. Okay? It is not touched by anything. This is nature of Atma. Okay? Then immediately Arjuna thinks that, okay, if this is what I need to know, then I can just run away from everywhere. So that's when he says no. Okay. Why life of karma yoga is very essential? Because if you are not, as I said, if your unconscious is something which is heavy, right, that you can't get rid of it immediately. Okay, so that means you need to continue to live in this world, continue to perform your actions, but at every time when you choose your actions, bring in Ishvara as dharma and act according to it. When results come which are not in keeping with what you are looking for, instead of going through this roller coaster, understand that there are laws. Then you still do what you can to change the situation, but there is a certain inner composure by understanding. Okay. Then you have something called meditation practices. Okay, or a very important way to deal with it is, in meditation what happens is your mind is in an absorbed state. So you are operating not at a very conscious level, you act at a deep level. So at that deep level, if you can surface some of the things and slowly get rid of it, that is something which is a very important practice. Okay, so meditation was talked about. Then the whole understanding of Ishvara, how this whole life is something which is within these laws. Okay, even though it's a relative world, how that's why in what we have in addition to a psychologist, okay, to deal with our issues is Ishvara. Okay, okay. How far does psychology take you? It makes you see certain dynamics, and it also makes you see exactly that how your present is governed by those experiences, and helps you to free from that by understanding it, right? That's what it does. But then still the fact remains that that person did this to me. That cannot change. Okay, so there is certain amount of resentment that you can't get rid of. You can only understand that this is what is happening and this is what is governing my present behavior, and you try not to be under the influence of that experience in order to, when is it that you become nirvairaha? Free yourself from all the resentment totally is when you bring what? The understanding that that person himself or herself was helpless.
A different perspective, their perspective,
right? And which is also governed by causes within causes within causes, then in their life, right? And then there, so it's like, this Tolstoy story that we saw, there are causes within causes within causes. Now, who are you going to hold responsible? Actually give it up in understanding of these infinite causes.
Okay. You really have to think.
You need to think at a macro level. See, we are so used to
all the time.
Yeah, we are so used to kind of looking at our little problem, okay, and wanting our little solution. We can't get out of it. Okay, it is like, you have a child who has cold and you want medical science only for that. No, but this is only my problem. So I want to only solve this problem. So why are you teaching me about this anatomy and all? I just am interested in that. It is really using Vedanta like that. What it offers is a much, much bigger vision, and you want only for your little solution. And if it is not directly solving it, then you feel, oh, it's not related to my daily life. It's related to your daily life at a very fundamental level. Okay? So therefore, this is what is something which is a very common thing. Through meditation, you actually, Ishvara, you resolve issues. You resolve issues at a very deep level by understanding how the world works. So when you understand how the world works, two basic things that we suffer from, you will get rid of those two things. One is feeling like a victim of circumstances. This one did this to me, and victimizing yourself. Okay? And the second is what? Your own guilt about what you have done. That means I didn't do this properly. I didn't do that. You could not have done anything better at that given point in time because there are laws. You are governed by, your psyche was governed by laws. You free yourself. Exactly. So when you free yourself, then it doesn't mean that you are just giving yourself a license to do what you want. I can use it better. That's it.
And you're not absolving that responsibility either, because at that point
you didn't.
The best
Absolutely.
That you could have
Absolutely.
You're aware of it.
But what we do? Carry exactly. See, generally what happens is our mind.
That you acted best at every point. You did not.
You did not. It's okay because nobody.
People who have basically a good intention to do good in the world.
Absolutely.
So you start out with the premise that people who absolve themselves or understand are basically people who want to be good, who want to do their best. But are there people who don't really want to do good, or are not?
That is true. So, see, generally what happens, Bela, is they don't even realize, right, that they are operating from their unconscious. They don't even know. That's why nobody goes to a psychologist to say that now you help me. Because what they create seems like reality to them. Okay? So that means most of the people are living in this world with a very partial understanding, but they don't even realize that this is a partial understanding. So they just live like how they live.
So there is a universal truth that basically every human being wants to be good. Oh, haram and all, where do they come from? I mean, however bad their past could have been, where do they come from?
Yeah, but Bela,
Yeah,
it's amazing, because I know some people who teach to prisoners Vedanta or yoga or anything, many of these, and you will see how, for example, some of them who've actually gone to these prisons and taught them, they said how they, once you get past their facade and you get to their core, they just cry, they just break down. But if you relate to them, okay, at that level, and you touch that part of that core of their being, they change. There
Can
is,
still find that self.
and they can find that self. But nobody has time to spend and to show them that thing. We just kind of say, oh, now you've done this and you are like behind bars, So we have they suffer.
Previous lives from
They
past,
really, yeah.
from who knows.
From who knows
But
what all.
also probably like people like that, they cannot resolve it.
They cannot.
Because
See,
they have to work through, right?
But
It's
like all
not
of us, like she
one
said, this
act, one
unconscious,
consequence.
exactly.
There have been so many acts, so there have to be so many consequences.
absolutely.
But like it's about not carrying resentment from what happened now.
Now,
Because what happened now you might even understand with your awareness and resolve, but there's a resentment from 10 other past interactions
Yeah.
that you haven't brought into your conscience because you don't even remember them all.
You don't
and
even
that
remember.
is the strength of that unconscious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The strength of one is because, as Arna says, it's infinite what we are storing in our unconscious, and your whole attempt is not to kind of try to bring out as much some basic things which are holding you, that you can. What will happen is situations will arise. Okay, and if you are aware, you will begin to see that you are losing perspective. That's enough. Okay, then you try to see if you can find some pattern. Okay, or if you don't find a pattern from the past and connect it to some experience in the past, you just question your own assumptions at that given point in time. That itself is what we call cognitive psychology.
and
Where you-
meditation will help
and
you. in
meditation will help you in
But
that,
the
and
idea
then
is-
change the way you think. There are so many within that trigger have made about without checking the validity of those assumptions. Okay, the minute you look into it, and I said, okay, now from here, she did not smile at me, so I'm saying she's arrogant. Now, what a big jump I'm making, but I don't even question myself as to have I checked the data accurately to make this whole big jump. I just start believing in all the stories that I make for myself without seeing that at each level I have made so many inferences which could not be accurate.
But the other good thing I find is that when you brought into awareness something and then you let it go, with that letting go, without your many other
Many,
things
absolutely.
that are similar
Yes,
that you could have
That are
carried,
connected.
and
Yes.
as you get lighter, you realize it's easier
to
let
just,
go
that's true.
so much.
So much, absolutely. So that's why that whole life is being proactive where you have to be, and letting go where you have to. Otherwise, what also happens, Arnaz, is some people take over responsibility. They get into this whole mission of self improvement, and every small thing becomes like a huge thing. I'm not asking you to now this one person. See, people when they listen to Vedanta. Okay, so what then she is obsessively like every small thing she says. Now I'm so scared to make decisions. And there are others who will everything is Ishvara, so let it all be. See, people create so it is preordained,
Yeah.
it's all destiny.
People think of
See,
karma,
people-
they think of preordained.
See,
I don't have to
people
think, I'll just flow.
full of idea of spirituality. Somebody recently said, when I say you make decisions, I am very practical. I said, take into account law of dharma, understand how it works, even though it's universal, it's not relative, it requires interpretation, but interpretation when you make sure that you are not doing it, for your own benefit. Very clear. Okay, and if you are not 100% sure, ask somebody or ask for help through prayer. Very clear. Okay, Now there's some so-called spiritual circle, they said, oh, there is this big I, and then there is a small I, and that small I is your ego, and that ego is a, has a very narrow perspective. Your big I has a bigger perspective, so connect to your big I. They make all kinds of imaginations. We are not talking about that.
You're creating a difference which doesn't
Absolutely, right? So that means this whole new age has created their own terminology and their own vision with deviating from the traditional teaching, which is a very practical, very objective thing.
Yeah, but it's not trying to fit in that teaching into that smaller.
Exactly. They've
perspective,
created,
which is unnecessary.
exactly, they have created their own, exactly. They've created their, and they've changed the whole terminology to fit into that perspective, and people get into an imaginary mode. How am I supposed to know what is a big I and what is, here we are talking about Ishvara's laws. I'm saying what Ishvara is and making you see how it is and how, you see what I mean? I'm not creating concepts. Oh, there is this big I guy and get answers for what you're supposed to do. Okay, so this is where traditional Vedanta is a very sane, it makes you sane, it puts you away from imaginary mode to what the whole attempt is. If I'm living in this world, I have no choice but to understand that world accurately. Only then I can live in this world effectively. I can't just give up one imagination and take up another imagination. I'm just living in my imagination. I'm not in touch with reality. Okay? So this is where that whole process is something which takes time. Everything all at once exactly. Okay, that you are able to understand this big reality, karma yoga perfectly, meditation perfectly, understanding Ishvara perfectly and aligning yourself perfectly. All this you think it is just something which is done in like 1 month? That is a wrong expectation. He understands that, and that's why he says abhyasa. Abhyasa is something which is a very nice thing, repetition. Okay? Once you understand that this is the plan of life, right, that I need to ultimately understand my true nature, okay, as being already free, and I need to prepare my mind to gain that understanding, I'm not afraid. Whole life gains direction. Okay. Before, what was happening is you are just going here and there and doing whatever. Okay. Now you know that this is what I'm looking for and this is the goal of my life. It is, what happens is they entangle their lives more and more and more. Okay. That person did this to me, so now instead of just understanding that person and not continuing this whole thing, we again retaliate and we keep on increasing our knots rather than undoing the knots. When you come to Vedanta, what you have started is what? The process of undoing the knots. That's a different way of living altogether. Okay? Instead of increasing your entanglement, what you are trying to do is freeing yourself from these entanglements. But that takes time. Okay? So that requires alertness. Alertness does not become an obsession. Okay? Because ultimately you want to, the whole vision of Vedanta is you are free. So the more you give up your loads, you are supposed to be more cheerful. Okay? You are supposed to be more enthusiastic. You are supposed to be much lighter. Okay? It's not like, oh my God, today I did something. It should not become an obsession. Otherwise you go again, see, mind is, and small thing which is told here, it becomes like a mountain and you get obsessed by it. We are obsessive by nature. This is why you need to have a mind which is objective. Because anything you receive, you create your own picture, which has got nothing to do with what the texts are saying and what the teacher is saying. Okay? So therefore, without putting pressure, you just do what you have to do. Every small effort that you make to remove that knot is something which is going to help you. It is going to help you. It's called Abhyasa. For Abhyasa, what you need is Vairagya. What is Vairagya? Vairagya is, unfortunately, when people don't know what the word Vairagya means, it exactly, right? It has that connotation of giving up everything, dispassionate towards things, detached towards things. These are the meanings of the word Vairagya that you have in common parlance. Okay. Now here the word is used in a very technical manner. It exactly. It is used only exactly. So we saw. I'm so happy you remember that, right? Why am I saying non-coloring? Because if you go to the root ranj, it only means to color. It means that vigataha ragaha yasmat is vairagya. Okay, that coloring has gone away. That means you see things as they are. Okay, if you really begin to see things as they are, really, okay, what do you realize? That every object has its own value, right? But no object
there only to harass you.
exactly. So no object is there only to harass you, nor
Is it there only to please
is
you?
only there to please you. You just keep changing something that you loved as a child, marble. That was the whole, when somebody took away marble, your world ended. You just wanted to go and fight with this child. As you grow up, you're not afraid of marbles. Okay, you just play with them, with your own kids or somebody else's kids. And when somebody takes it away, what happens? You are fine, right? This is how, if you are like that with every object in the world, then you're what? You're seeing the value. You're not like what? Either we have one which is a positive Shobhana Dhyasa, which is I give so much value to a giver, or I what? Think it is useless, which is not, right? Every object is what it is. Okay? The more you begin to see that, and also ultimately you're getting in contact with any given object or getting rid of any given object that you dislike, is not the way to gain fulfillment in life.
You realize that
Just
freedom
give it
has
its
to
place.
exist.
Exactly.
Once
Absolutely.
you understand its place, it doesn't need
Exactly.
You don't have to.
You don't have to.
You just have to understand
You
its
just
place.
have to, exactly. This is Vairagya. You just have to understand its place. You will automatically find freedom in dealing with it. Okay, that is the depth of that knowledge. What gives you, nobody can take away. It's not a technique. It's not
But
like
that you have to also give up your vision or your understanding of your place in the scheme of things.
excellent.
Because that's where really it originates from.
Absolutely, right? Because that's a very good point. It really, because you are making a
Dependence
very
comes
good
from-
point. Can you
that
give a real life
dependence
example?
comes from your need to be needed in a very simplistic way.
Can you give a like a? It's a very nice point you're making. Let people understand that. That's a very subtle point she's making.
I don't know how to explain it, but basically, for example, you feel you need
Give an object, make it concrete.
your relationship with your kids. For
Excellent.
example.
Okay.
You want your kids to need you, so a lot of your actions or you feel your happiness is dependent on their reaction because unconsciously you need that,
Approval.
their dependence on you.
The way you've placed
So
yourself.
the way you,
your
you
life
feel
in
that
India.
you feel that you need to be sort of indispensable in their world to feel fulfilled, and therefore unconsciously you are acting dependent, or your actions are motivated by somebody else's reactions, not from this free space of what you feel is a good choice.
So if you say, I can't live without my son calling me every day. So
Not
you,
Not that.
So-
Not
so-
quite
so
that.
that-
Not quite that.
not
You might,
quite.
for example,
But-
want to do something special for him, not purely because
You want to do
the joy of doing something, but unconsciously there is that need for him to feel this incredible love and dependence on you.
Graduation, because Rahil will not cope without me. I'm giving myself far too much importance in Rahil's exam and I mean I still will do it, but I have to understand that yes, whereas it's important for me to be here for his exam, but had there been a situation where I had to go away, he will not collapse completely, you know. I still have to understand that it's not that important also. Yes,
So
it's
you've
the nice thing to
your
do.
role.
I've
You've
colored my
colored
role,
your
how
role
important
and
your
your
I'm
character
saying that you've colored your action
based
on
on your role, on what you
on
perceive
on
your role.
what your
on
perceived
want-
importance of
yeah.
the role.
No, what you would like your you know.
I kind of understand what she's saying, and that I mean I think she's making a very subtle point. What she's saying is that let's say your child needs something. I mean he whatever you deal with that child, right? And you in your mind you think you're just looking at the welfare of the child. What she's saying is you're actually looking at your own need through that child.
Yeah, I'm saying your dependence
So, yes,
stems
yes,
from your own
from
need of
need.
somebody else depending
Thing
on
on you, exactly.
That's what I'm
Oh.
So then
So
your
you
concern for the child is
also motivated by.
It's when you're trying and your actions.
So it comes from your own needs, right? It comes from.
It's from your
It is
need
your
to
need
be
to be.
wanted by that
Yeah.
So
child.
that is a pleasing of yourself only, not that you want
That-
somebody to
No,
want
it's
you
your
is something.
no, it's
See, you
your
don't
own
see-
insecurity that you have not addressed. in
Exactly.
many ways.
See,
At the same
you
time,
don't
your role
really.
as a mother will remain. So
Yeah.
it's not
It's
like you
nothing
can
to do with your role. As a
Yeah.
mother. It's nothing to do with
See,
your
what she's saying is.
your perceived
value
value
to the other person.
to the child.
Yeah.
So you're fueling his dependence because you need that dependence. He doesn't need.
For you to
so
feel
that
good.
is a role. Of
No,
course,
it's
that
not
is
a
a
role. It's a
So your
nothing
role
to
doesn't
do with
role.
your role.
No,
It's
your
to do
role
with your
doesn't mean
fulfilling
that your child
yourself.
should be dependent on you. Your role should be that you nurture your child and bring him up.
Yeah.
Your role is not to fuel his dependence.
Excellent,
But
Sumi.
that's not
That's
your role.
Excellent.
But if you do fuel his dependence, then isn't it a perceived role
No,
that
not
as
at all.
a mother,
Not at all.
well,
I'm
it's
saying
the
that it is
same-
not at all a
It
perceived
is not
role.
part of your role.
You are actually
Thinking.
trying to fulfill yourself through this by increasing your value to somebody.
I'll just read out
You
one
know, it's
thing I received on Mother's Day, which was which may put it in a comeback and reasons to stay. So you do all this, but you need it more, so you're not doing it out of
altruism.
out
Yeah.
of free
Yeah.
will. You're
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
it because you want a response.
But
what
that's
Yeah, but just understand it. You're still going to do it.
yeah.
But my
yeah.
point is, like you're saying, very subtle. I'm just
Very
talking
subtle.
about
She's
the
just saying,
unconscious
yeah,
instinct
unconscious needs that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That
then
Yeah.
that
your
whole thing of
interactions
which
have.
what intent
And you
guiding
think-
your action.
Yeah. See, you think. See, what she's talking about is you convince yourself that I'm only thinking from the standpoint
you're
of the child's, right?
mentioned
But actually, you are. It's your need that you are kind of, and you don't realize that. If you realize that, then you're objective.
You know,
No,
many
you don't
times.
need
Intent.
Within
you why
There is
you
this
are
need.
doing something.
Yes,
right? Once
exactly.
you understand why you're doing something,
Then-
Let's put it
you are
in
able
a
accept the result of
in an
whatever.
opposite
Exactly.
way when
You
supposing
see, it's a very subtle thing.
So
It's
very
just,
subtle thing,
yeah. You
you
just
understood
Didn't
okay,
you-
why are you doing.
So that
Explain
means-
the suffering to us, that when somebody is suffering and you you
Empathize.
you empathize with that person, and yet there's something within you which feels, oh thank God that
I'm
it
not
gives
in
you
that
this
place.
sort of
superior.
pleasure, no?
it gives you this sort of vicarious pleasure that thank God
it's
it's
It's not me.
So these are subtle things which
These
you're
are
saying
very
that one
subtle
should
things.
be aware
Yes.
because it will affect your intent.
It's very, very true that there is this human, according to Vedanta, what is compassion? Okay, so there are so many workshops which talk about, this how to develop compassion. What Vedanta says is that you don't have to develop compassion or anything. You are born, right, as human program. Just as in that human program there is an understanding of what is right and what is wrong, in that human program there is also an emotion of empathy. It is inbuilt. Inbuilt, you saw that nowadays there was this Nepal earthquake, and the picture was being sent to everyone. A 4-year-old brother.
Holding a little.
All empathy. Empathy means what? That small little child, right? Nobody taught him. He never went to school and somebody said, "Now you have to take care." When he sees that he almost has that whole natural tendency to take care of his little sister, 2 years old, 4-year-old and 2-year-old. Okay? This is what we call empathy. It is part of human programming. Okay? Now, what happens is, what is compassion then? Okay? Empathy then means that when I can pick up somebody's pain,
Feel
okay,
the pain.
I can
somebody
feel
else's
the
pain.
pain of somebody else. Okay, and it's a very, very good emotion to have, because then that's what makes
fuel my
me
action.
do things to somehow help alleviate that pain, right? So therefore, this is something which is part of human programming. Now, let us see what is compassion. Compassion is that empathy which is there, right? How much are you acting on it? That is what we call compassion. And active acting on that empathy is what we call compassion. Sometimes what happens is, you see something, your immediate response is that you should help. But you use your reasoning to say, "Oh no, somebody else can do it. Come after me."
Beggar
So
thing is a huge thing.
It's a
You
huge
see
thing.
That,
Yeah.
and I think all of us wonder.
No, or even if it's your servant and you know that in 10,000 rupees,
Yes.
how can they possibly survive?
Yeah.
But then every time they have one disaster in back
Yeah.
home, then you say, okay, now I'm going to give them money. If I give him money, then next time he'll ask for more,
More
and he'll ask
money,
for
yes.
more, and he'll
Yeah,
ask for
yeah.
more, and so somewhere you tell yourself, no, I have to
Yeah.
cut something out of his salary so that he doesn't get into the habit of doing
Yeah.
it. Whereas I feel empathetic towards him, I know that his
But
eyes
how
have
we-
collapsed
how
back
we
home in the
react.
rain.
But you may not necessarily
Be
be able
compassionate
to
about
translate
So that's what she said, the difference between empathy and
action that is logical. You
Logical.
might be able to do 10 other things with
Exactly.
the most effective choice.
see, what our teacher says is that there is no rule that you have to give. See, unfortunately what happens is that you feel, "Oh my God, I'm not acting on that empathy, so I'm not compassionate." See, everything that Vedanta says you use for self-judgment, right? What we are saying is making you see how the mind works and intervene at a very subtle level. Okay, so what we say, our teacher says, you don't have to make this whole mission that every beggar that
Yeah.
comes and I'm going to give. No, I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm not giving you all these programs. I'm making you understand things. Okay, so therefore, what our teachers say, when a situation comes in front of you, okay, then assess that situation as objectively as possible. Okay. So therefore, let's say even if your servant comes, there is no rule that once you give, you always have to give. These are all the stories you make for
We
yourself,
make for us.
right? So that means assess every situation and merit of that situation.
Except that there is
And
some
then-
truth to
Hmm.
the expectation that it generates.
Yeah.
So you've given
So,
once,
yes.
so there is
It-
definitely an expectation that
exactly.
you will give again.
True.
So it is that anticipation of that expectation which really makes
You
hesitate.
absolutely. So therefore,
triggers of
Arnaz, what happens is we don't make it explicit. See, I go through this whole process of decision making with to make that decision,
Yeah.
and also make it very clear that next time you ask, it's not that I'm going to.
It's a new,
So it's a new thing,
process.
Yeah.
and you will assess based on the necessity of that situation.
Yeah.
See, you can make it very explicit to kind of, you're right, because human mind is such.
I think
Okay,
that's very,
this
make
is
it very
to explicit.
That's
that-
very
And not
important.
only to the other person, to yourself.
Also yourself,
yourself.
exactly.
Because otherwise you have that past memory and you say tabhi bhi manga, tabhi bhi manga, tabhi bhi manga.
Yes.
Exactly.
You also
Yes.
have to tell yourself that next time, free of all this, I will assess it as is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
I think
this.
that's really,
That is, that's why we say that be fresh in your assessment of things. We carry so.
This is
Eh?
if you genuinely, objectively assess
Oh,
everything,
Huh.
you will realize.
that's all right.
So
That's
this
all
is
right.
what my
That
teacher
is
was
a
saying.
really frightening thing, because honestly, if you assess it objectively, there's never a time that you can't.
No,
So
there
this
that
is something.
there, but that
So
doesn't
my
mean you have to
teacher
always-
used to say that. He used to say. He
That
says,
is the
all
restriction
you
there.
have to do, not to make this lofty that I program. I will always do this. I will always do this. He says you do something very subtle. You just say that I'm going to assess and I'm going to see.
Rather eat something before you go to the kitchen. Take it in a box.
Okay, and see what I can do. Okay, because generally what happens is when somebody is telling you a story, instead of listening and being with that story, okay, you're already creating all these exactly, and then he will do this. So you create your own story, and your own. That's where you're colored. So therefore, he says, you just listen. You give up all the things while the person is talking. Just listen. Then, if you have any questions, ask those questions. Then assess what you can do. Sometimes you'll be able to do many things. Sometimes you may not be able to do some things. But you can also then say, now let me see, because you have so many resources, right? So you may not be able to give money, but let's say you may know a doctor if somebody needs, and then you can help through that person, or you can at least talk, and then somehow give a lead. After that, what happens, right?
Talking to you is
Or
enough.
exactly, sometimes the very talking is says that even if you, let's say, in some circumstances can't do anything, you at least can pray. That's all. You can still do that. Pray for the well-being of that person. Ask Ishvara to help that person. Okay, but you have changed your psyche in a very subtle manner. Instead of justifying and telling a story, you're saying, this situation has come to me, let me give my best and assess that situation accurately and do what I can.
Which is the
These are subtle things
Abhyas of bringing Ishvara.
in the thing. Really. Okay, this is what, it's all subtle. Vedanta is subtle. The revolution, it all happens silently, but it is very significant. It changes the nature of your psyche. You're a different person. Okay, so this is how you deal. This abhyasa and vairagya are two very important. Otherwise, you will think, oh, Vedanta hasn't solved this problem of mine, so it is not relevant in daily life. This is unfortunately how people take Vedanta. They are unable to see the totality and the subtlety of the whole vision. It's that whole new way of looking at life and living your life. Okay? So therefore, here he says that has to be done. So now, just to end this, I said how important it is to align your life to this, because if you don't do that, then I just give you one example, which is a real example. Okay, so and sometimes it is really shocking how people take this whole teaching. So one person came up to me, and I do so many retreats, and I do I meet many people, and some other yeah. So what he said is, he's actually asking me this. He says that Yeah, I want the truth, and that is the only thing that I want. But so before, for example, my whole attention was on the relative world because I thought relative world is the reality. Okay, and therefore I had to be very strict with myself and think about what I should do and what should I not do. So I was attracted to somebody, but I kind of refrained. He's a married person with kids, grown up kids and all that. So he said that, oh, I was very careful about, not doing something because that I am already free, okay, and this is all just relative. So what difference does it make, one wave here and one wave there and all? What you do in your relative world has no consequences with reference to the final thing. So what's wrong if I just have a few flings? People actually come and tell me these kind of things.
What answer do you give them?
So that's why I said, I really said, you study. So this traditional way is something where, they make it easy. This so-called new age, they make it easy. You are awareness, you are free, and that's all. All you have to do is to just somehow know that, and then, absolve yourself from all these grind of day-to-day living. So it's easy, it's fast, it is something effortless, okay, and that's what people, this is what that quick fix, they're all looking for quick fix, okay. So this is where I say, knowing truth does not mean that you just know this absolute and you disregard the relative. In order to know the truth, you have to be aligned. That alignment at every level prepares you to know this big picture. This is how order of Ishvara is. If you are not aligned at all these levels, the truth will continue to evade you. There's no way. This is what we say, bringing in Ishvara. Where is the source of this knowledge? The source of knowledge, like every other knowledge, is Ishvara. Okay? And you need grace of Ishvara in order to know this reality. Can you decide when are you going to know this? You cannot. You can't say, otherwise everybody will say, I want to be a wise person tomorrow. It's not you decide. Okay? You only what? Start the pursuit and you do what you have to do, and then what? The grace of Ishvara, know that reality and to live that reality. Okay? The final card is in the hands of Ishvara. Who understands what? Okay? But in order that Ishvara works not only because Ishvara likes Sumita and doesn't like X. It's not that. Okay? How much you have worked, how much you have reflected on this reality, how much you have worked on your alignment, all that will go into knowing, deciding what you get when, what kind of clarity when. And everybody has one's own journey. This is safe teaching because it talks about a bigger thing but not in an irresponsible manner, and it also shows that even this reality is something which is already accomplished. There is time. It is, you try to, nowadays there is mango season, and people say that, they try to quicken the process of ripening. So what do? They put gas and they put powder and they do this and that, right? So you are interfering with nature. Okay, what happens? Nobody wants that fruit, because what? In that process, it takes some it takes the flavor away, maybe add some toxins or whatever. Okay, self growth and self knowledge is like that. It will take its own time. Okay, this of Vedanta. How old is this ignorance about the nature of I? Anadi. Cycles and cycles and cycles of creation. Okay, these orientations that we have, cycles. That's why they are so deep rooted. Okay, to undo that and to have a new vision of life completely and to understand it and assimilate it it's not going to be like in 1 month. So be realistic about the profundity of the whole teaching and how it is going to. You cannot hasten this process. take its own time, but what is that little knot of yours? It is a release. Okay. Our teacher used to say that if I will end the class by that, and it says that before from Rishikesh they used to go on a pilgrimage to Badri. Badri is up in the mountains, right? So therefore, and a lot of things happen when you are in the mountains. There are landslides, there are storms, there are all kinds of unpredictable things. So from Rishikesh, if you start imagining that what all could go wrong, okay, or how far that journey is, you will never start. Okay, but you make one step, and then you make another step. So and not only that, but if you make that one step, as you start going away from Rishikesh, you will begin to see what beautiful valleys, you will see flowing Ganga. So that whole process itself is pleasurable. Okay, it's not only that when you reach Badri, only then your pleasure will come, and right now it is a difficult journey, right? The journey itself is beautiful. Okay, every time you give up your confusion, your smallness, and begin to be a better human being and alive to reality, is what you're helping yourself all the way, and simpler and simpler, and you really begin to see grace of Ishvara. If you ask me one thing, if I feel that I have done my job, my relationship with you, okay, is connect you to Ishvara. Ishvara as an entity is something that you can't ignore in your life. That real understanding of Ishvara. The more you align your life to Ishvara, you will really see major changes. Major changes. We are so used to living life in a way that wanting to control everything. Relax in the order of Ishvara, and at the same time do your part. Be proactive. This is where you find you are just sailing.
Like you said, the subtleness to get clarity into the law of dharma and the law of karma.
Absolutely. Subtleness. Absolutely. And then what?
It is really about that clarity.
Clarity. All the way.
Keep bringing it in.
Absolutely.
And the more connected you are, the more clear or the more correct your clarity
Absolutely.
will be.
This is why, Arnaz, in addition to becoming more alert, you also pray. Gayatri, human mind is such that first of all, you don't know everything. And secondly, within what you know, people get so carried away, and they don't even know that they've got carried away. So you ask for clarity all the way. Non-coloring becomes
Get it from
this
point.
exactly, right? So this is a process of life, and this is where that connection with Ishvara, where you physically you relax. You're not like, okay, when is my moksha? No. Okay, you relax and you do what you have to do. Okay, so this is what the whole thing. And the next verse is interesting verse where Arjuna is asking him a question about some terms. Okay, Prameyam. In this discussion, I will talk a little bit, not this time, next time, about you need to know a little bit about other schools of thought. Okay, people are looking into Vedas. This is a Hindu tradition. Okay, people are looking into Vedas. They are coming up with different things that people think Veda are talking about. Then there is a big debate among people who are looking into Vedas. Okay, what is it saying? Okay, saying and why it is saying, why they are saying that this is what it is saying that. Then each one enters into debate with the other and said that if this is the reality, then it cannot contradict reason. Okay, so the whole debate goes in looking into, it's not that we are Vedas or we are right and others are wrong. Then it logically it is irrefutable. That is what makes Indian tradition, it's amazing tradition. The focus is not you and me, the focus is the truth. And when people with knowledge are addressing it,
The intelligentsia of the world is addressing.
exactly. Absolutely. So that's why it is refined. The whole thing is refined. So to give you a glimpse, I will in this question. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.